morning, everybody. It's so weird. I'm here on a Wednesday. If you're watching me live. So welcome to Soul Coach Studio channel on YouTube, my Facebook page, if you're watching on there, or in the event, I think Facebook lets you run live streams into events these days. I don't know all the technology. I just hit start broadcast and here I am. I am Soul Coach Michele, as you can see right here. And we are on lesson 2 of the lesson series of Intro to Your Akashic Records, how you can access your own Akashic Records. So when I first had Spirit put it on my heart to do this, I put out a post and I was like, hey, anybody got any questions? Do you want to know what they are? Do you know like what's your questions about Akashic Records? And someone posted, how do I access them? Like, how do I do this? And because a lot of times, the most way that people do access them is through hiring somebody to read your records and then share that information with you. That's kind of what has been done in the past. But I kind of want to give you, much like yesterday, like my approach to how things work in the energetic ways and the dimensions and everything may not be conventional. So I want to share with you what I feel is from my perspective, and as far as I am concerned, the way and I guess it's not solely my perspective, it's more like before I get on here with you, what I generally do is connect with the universe, connect with source energy, because that's where I channel my information from, which I will also share with you that's actually really part of Akashic Records stuff. And the messages that I got was, yes, I sat down and wrote a bunch of notes last week, like I said in the first video. But today there's additional stuff that I wanted to share with you that is more from the perspective of what I have in my communing with spirit has come into my awareness. So thank you for joining me today. I see that there's a couple of you here. Hello, good morning, Sharon. Yes, you found me. I hope that you know that that this will be helpful to everyone watching. If you are watching me live, go ahead, and if you're on Facebook, I think you can comment below whether you're live or watching a replay. And if you are on YouTube, go ahead and say hello in the live chat, or if you're watching the replay, again, hashtag replay, and let me be able to come back later and say hello to you. And if you have questions about either any of the lessons, whether you are live with me right now or sometime in the future, feel free to go ahead and pop those questions or comments in the comment section or the chat, whatever, depending on what platform you're checking us out on. So that if you need something, I'm there to support you, because that's one of my goals. But anyways, welcome. I'm Soul Coach Michele, your friendly neighborhood super woo and co-creative life coach. And today we're going to talk about how you can access your own records. So just as like kind of how I understand this, how it has been given to me from source energy, how all of this works. So we all kind of have, I'm sure if you're watching this, you probably either engaged the services of a healer, a channel, a reader, an intuitive of some kind, a Reiki master, gone to classes. You are in that metaphysical circle of belief system. If you're not, this might be a new thing for you, and you might want to check out the first video in the lesson series, which is on my YouTube channel. But I'm going to go with the fact that you are of a metaphysical belief system right now. And because of that, I want to kind of dive into this idea of people think, hey, Tori, good morning. And people think that and I equate a lot to the legal industry, mostly because that's my muggle background, my day job stuff. So I have a lot of correlation there. So people think that when you go to, say, a medical medium, they get their information from the medical place. Or if you go to like a card reader, they get their information from a different place, or their spirit guide, or this healer, or whatever. But here's the thing, whenever we intuitives of any kind, regardless of what your clair is, because that's a big deal. Everybody wants to know what their clair is. Are you clairaudient, sentient, whatever? Whether you are an energy healer, whether you are an herbalist using intuitive guidance, whether you are a channeler, if you are, you know, medical medium, trans medium, conscious medium, which is what I do. Um, Whatever you are, I want to be really clear, we're all dipping into the same bank of information. It's all the Akashic records because, as I shared in lesson one, the Akasha, which is the energy that then comes into formation in the 3D. And again, not just on Earth, all throughout the universe, for all time, the universe has been in existence. And the Akashic records is the recording ground. It's the iCloud that has all of the happenings that all entities, conscious awareness entities in the universe since the beginning of time, have created, and there's a record of it. So when we want, like, a medium who talks to your great grandma goes into the Akashic records and gets that energy, and it reforms slightly at a higher vibration, so that the medium can then raise her or his vibration to the level of that reformatted energy in the Akashic records to have that communication with your granny. Okay, that's kind of how it works. It could be a medical medium like Edgar Casey, who only had a seventh grade education, who's healing people left and right, and he's talking about the Akashic records. That's where he gets his information. That's where everybody gets their information. Okay, I hate to break it to you. It's not like all these different people are talking to different people. Everybody's hanging out in there because that's the record of where all of the conscious decisions have been making. Good morning. Hey, Lourdes. Good morning, Margaret. Long time no see. I have been watching you. I loved your post yesterday, by the way. Hey, Kat, how are you? Good morning. Good morning, y'all. And so with that, I wanted to kind of get that out of the way first. The understanding of this, the records, the library is where everyone gets all their stuff. It is where you get all your information. It is where, like, you have the energy of people, say, like Bashar, if you've ever watched the channel Bashar, who channels an entity who is, I'm not sure what starseed he is or it is, but that energy resides residually in the Akashic records because it either is coming from a past experience or a current channeled experience, because it's recording, kind of like, think of it this way, it's like your DVR. So not only is the show happening like right now, it's also being recorded for later. So you're having that happen. That's why I say check into the idea of universal block theory, where past, present, future happens all at the same time in a coordinate in space-time. Nerdy shit if you want to go after that business. That's like quantum physics stuff. So that's kind of why, when you think about your intuitives and your healers in the metaphysical circles, that's where everybody's getting their info. We're dipping. I would tell people I'm ladling in to the Akashic records and pulling out information, or I'm connecting with other folks that energy is residually there or currently there, because it's past, present, future. It's all there. Okay. So that's the framework I want us to kind of work from when we're thinking about how we're going to use this as a tool to, dissolve, to figure out what our blocks are and then dissolve them. So understand that that's the framework where I teach from. It's not like, oh, it's this, when we talk about, oh, it's a building and there's a person there, and, yes, that I use in meditation for facilitating people into their Akashic records, because we are 3D creatures. We decided to come here. And because of that, a lot of times we have to give our brains, our 3D brain, a parameter that we're familiar with, so that we can go in and access the things that we want in a way that's familiar. Otherwise, if I just was like, you're going to go to this, coordinate in space time, nobody has a parameter for that. I don't barely even have it. I just watch a lot of Star Trek and Star Wars and sci-fi and all that stuff and have done so since I was a teeny weeny. But most people don't pay that much attention to that kind of stuff because I'm a big fat nerd. Who also I'm a spirit nerd, spirit science nerd. And a lot of people aren't. So why I say is go ahead and Google it because it's a lot. But the way that I bring it to you, because like I think a friend of mine shared, she said one of my strengths is taking these big esoteric concepts and bringing them into a space where folks can relate to them on an everyday level. And so when we talk about the Akashic Records being a place, that's a building that has a person there that you like check out books with. We all know what a library is. We grew up with one, you know? So um, it's a familiar 3D concept that we use to access our records in a way that's familiar and not scary. So I wanted you to kind of understand why people use that framework to access, but also my framework from what is who's using this, who's accessing this on the regular. So I'll tell you this, if you are an intuitive, if you are a healer, if you're an intuitive coach, all of this business, and you are interacting into this on a regular basis, you're already accessing your records. But I'm going to tell you how that works because I think it's just very interesting. And for those that want to up their intuition, people always want to tap into their intuition and do all that's the same thing. So the number one thing I will tell you right now, and people hate it when I say this, but it's the God's honest truth, is meditation. Because meditation gives you that space to really kind of just let go, to give you that. It's not about not thinking thoughts. I mean, you'd be dead, okay? We think about 60,000 thoughts a day. If you didn't think, you'd be dead. It would be a very rare thing if you were not thinking thoughts, okay? So that's why when people teach meditation, they'll say, "Oh, become aware of whatever you're thinking." I think that, and then let it go. So meditation is more about being in awareness of what your brain, your 3D brain is doing, and then being able to consciously and intentionally release that so you can come back to your inner world. And when you are really in touch with your inner world, that is when you get in touch with what I call the divine trinity of self, which is your ego, which in my land does not mean a bad thing. People demonize the ego because they're like, oh, my ego made me do it, or my ego is full of fear, or my no, honey, no. Mm-mm. Your ego is what makes your specialness that you put out in the world. So when we talk about our ego, that's your life purpose. That's how you manifested into this. You are an extension of source energy. You manifested into the 3D, and your individuality of who you are is your ego. Okay. And yeah, because we chose this, we live the contrast minute to minute, second to second in this 3D human experience, which means sometimes we feel fear and sometimes we feel love, and we have a choice all the time. And a lot of times people blame our egos that we're making fearful choices when in fact it's really more about trying to avoid. We're afraid of we're living in avoidance instead of awareness. So if we can be in awareness and stay and not abandon ourselves, you can go ahead and tweet that. Quote me. I'm not on the tweeters, whatever. I don't know how to tweet Twitter and I don't want to be on there. So if you want to tweet me and quote me, go ahead. That's cool. Let me take a little screenshot and send it to me, Margaret, because I don't know how to do that. But if the thing is that our ego makes you special, don't focus on only the bad things. It's like how people always focus on their ancestral wounds. Well, your ancestors gave you some wisdom too. Focus on that, okay? Understand you can hold both. I think that's a big lesson, holding both things in your ego, your blessing, your love, your desire and want to be in the love energy, but also the decisions, the lessons that we learn by having the choice between love and fear. Okay? That's your ego. Number two part of that divine trinity of self is your soul or your higher self, or what I like to think of as the umbilical cord back to the oneness we all talk about, that source energy that we are the extension of, that higher self that guides you. And I love what is his name? And I was watching him the other day. I'm gonna look it up real quick. I just Shaman Durek, something like that. He is actually one of the contributors to the channeling docu-series on Gaia right now, and I love him. And one of the things he said that at first I was like, "What?" You know, because you know how when we hear things, we're like, "I don't want to hear that." We act like, "Oh, we're all high and mighty." But when I thought about it more, I was like, "Oh, that's so true." Your higher self is really what you might consider your shadow, because your higher self knows exactly how to be in alignment with source energy. And it constantly shows you where you're not. And that's the shadow work we all are supposed to be doing. So I thought that was a really interesting concept. So if you guys are like, no, that is not what. Yes, because it's like your higher self is supposed to be sweet and nice and wonderful. And the shadow is bad. Again, with that both sides of things. It's that learning, right? Just like your ego isn't fear based, your ego is the opportunity for choice. Your superpower is the freedom of choice in every situation. And just like that, in your soul energy, um, in your umbilical cord back to source energy, again, we're holding two things at the same time. It's showing you where your shadow needs light. So there's that. And then of course source energy is all love. And so there's that whole thing going on. And because of all of those choices, we're creating records in the Akashic records all the time. And I also love that the soul or your higher self or that umbilical cord is this purpose of that is the same for everybody because it's still in that same source energy, which is love, joy, abundance, right? And then your ego, which is your individuality, is where your life purpose happens, where you manifest what that stuff looks like for you in your special incarnation into this lifetime. So that's why when, say, you're working a corporate job you hate, and your calling really is to go like paint murals in towns on the side of like buildings in historical towns or something. Maybe that's your calling, right? But you're working in the accounting department in some corporate ickiness, and your soul or your higher self is like that's out of alignment. So they're giving you shadow lessons, like you can quit and go do this, but you have to choose. And if you get in alignment with that, you can go over here. And when we dip into our Akashic records, what happens is when you access them, is the Akashic record will show you because you walk in there and you don't get to choose. Like you think you get to choose. You're choosing, what you're choosing is really like, what do I need to know here to help me with this situation? What do I need to know? And they will show you. You don't get to choose which thing in your Akashic records you are going to be shown. You get to choose what question you want to ask, which the best question to ask is, what do I need to know here for this to get rid of the block that's keeping me from doing the things that put me in alignment? And so what happens is it'll show you what that is. And then it also gives you recommendations of how to, because there's eons of information. And it's like, based on the algorithm where this block has happened a bazillion times, here are the things you need to do to get yourself back in alignment and manifest your life purpose with great glory and alignment. Okay. And that's kind of what happens. So accessing them, there's a couple ways we can access them. So, but I did want to kind of give you that little blurby first about how I see things, what the deal is, how it kind of works. And if you haven't watched the first video yet, it's on my YouTube channel. There is a playlist right on the front page with this lesson series that'll be there for a bit, probably for the rest of February. And then I might move it somewhere else, but just so you're aware. Anyway, so I kind of put together a couple of questions that were asked that I think are interesting to talk about. So the first thing is, what are some ways you can access them? Well, of course, the first way I think everybody knows is to hire somebody and pay somebody to read them for you, where they, tap into the Akasha records on your behalf as a proxy. And then they then turn around and give you a synopsis of what they saw and heard and guidance um, based on their ideas. And they might be a coach that shares that information. They might be somebody that is sharing channeled information depending on um, their niche uh, skill set. As in addition to reading the records, they can do that for you. Now, I'm the kind of person, and I think anybody who's probably found me here knows that you probably are this way too. I want the whole juicy, delicious meal. I don't want someone else doing it for me or telling me how to do things. Now, mind you, yes, do I know how to clean my house? Yes. Do I have somebody that comes and does that for me to take that burden off of me because I'm doing other things and and there's an energetic exchange there for that? Yes. So here's the deal. The reason that I say it's good to do it for yourself is so that you learn how to do something the way you want it done. So that when you go to look for somebody to help you, like say you do want to later down the road talk to somebody that reads Akashic Records, you'll know, are they in the right space? Do they see it the way I do? Is this the person that I'm supposed to be working with? And it also might help you find a coach or a support system that helps you navigate dissolving the blocks the way the Akashic Records tell you. And plus, you don't have a middleman. I mean, I'm a firm believer in like, if you're going to have a relationship with the divine, it has to be between you and the divine without some extra person there. Now, that does not mean that there doesn't need to be other people supporting your journey, but I'm not a fan of organized, dogmatic, religious stuff where there's a person in the front who's like, I'm going to read you this reading and then tell you what I think it means, and you have to believe me. That kind of stuff I don't like. But what I do love is we all read the same passage, and then we have a circle and we talk about our feelings about that. Like how do I see that, and have a discussion or share an aha or share like how that manifested somewhere in my life. So that's kind of why, you know, I've been talking about how, there's also this Akashic journey to your Akashic records that I'm doing in group form. That's why we do a journey in one session and the next we circle up and have discussion. It's because I want people to be able to share without the dogmatic stuff. So just because that keeps you in touch with you, which is the whole point of when I say you can access your own records. Yeah, it's really nice. And I don't begrudge anybody who hires somebody or who does it for a living. I think it's awesome. Everybody has their special need and everybody's at a different place, and we all need to be met where we are. But I would think that the reason you're watching this lesson series is because you're kind of at that space where you want to do it yourself, and not do it yourself alone, but do it yourself in the sense that I want to experience my records for myself so that I can do my work with the support team that I want to put in place behind me, not somebody else doing it for me. Right? Because that's where our journey turns into like really healing a lot of the wounds, doing a lot of the shadow work, all that kind of stuff, right? So even though, yeah, we can hire somebody, sometimes I want the whole delicious meal. And sometimes I found also, I don't know about y'all, but lately I'll go out to eat thinking to myself, I don't got to do the dishes. I don't got to cook. I don't got to do the cleanup. I don't do, and I can go, someone can take care of me and I can leave. And that's great sometimes. But a lot of times I'm noticing that I'm like, I could have made better at my house. And that costs a lot of money, for what I got. And the fact is that sometimes I can spend just the same amount of money and make something just as beautiful. And if I clean as I go, it might be okay. And then it's just as delicious and I get extra stuff and dessert with it. I love that. So that's kind of how I roll. And that's why I offer up the idea of, yeah, you can hire somebody to read your records for you and send and give you their perspective, or you can go in them yourself. And the way that you go in them yourself is, like I said, and Tori said it right here. She goes, "You keep telling me to meditate, and I keep putting it off." Girl, I'm not big on blame, shame, and guilt, so I'm not going to do that. But I am going to say to you, I hope and intend that you will find time in your day, even if it's only 16 seconds, to meditate and reconnect with self so that you can get to the higher vibrations. Did you like that? Was that good? Okay. So I will say this, meditation is the best way to get in there, because what that does is a couple of things. As humans, as spiritual beings having a human experience, I don't know about you, but sometimes stress gets the better of me and my vibration gets low. And life has daily stressors, and they don't have to be ginormous. They could just be, I have to get to work on time and there's traffic. It could be, I think Margaret, I remembered you posting something about your son. It was like everything was going great, and then he just started throwing up out of the blue all over the place. That's a stressor, right? Because you're like, I don't even know why he's sick. Like, is he just got? Did he eat something bad? Does he have the flu? What's going on? That's a stressor. And then there's like big stressors in our life when someone we love maybe is sick or passes or transitions. Big stressors, or even happy things can be, stressors like people getting married or babies coming into the world. Those can be stressors. And if we don't have ways to manage our emotions, which are vibrations, to manage our emotions and our responses in a way that feels good to us, our vibration will never get high enough to get to the access point of our records, because we have to get to a place where, and I'm not saying I am Buddha under the fig tree. I want to make it really clear. There's some shit going down right now that I'm kind of like, oh my God. Okay. But I know if I wasn't meditating every day, y'all, mm-mm. And even this morning, I was like, I just don't want to. I didn't sleep good. I don't want to. But I did. I did my minimum, and I feel better. Okay. So that way, I'm going to recommend to say the reason we meditate, is so that we can listen. Prayer is talking. Dear Jesus, please send me $1,000,000. Amen. Okay. That's prayer, talking. Meditating, in our ownness, right, is opening up to the universe so we can listen to the answers to our prayers. And somebody else said something the other day that I was in a group, and it was so beautiful. She said, make your day, you act like you are a sacred walking prayer throughout your day. Like being grateful. I'm so, like your prayers, I'm so grateful for this. Even when like shit is hitting the wall or fan, shit is hitting the fan or the wall. Either way, it's not good. But you're walking through your day. I'm so grateful for the breath in my lungs. More of that, please. More of this feeling, please. This feeling of gratitude. Okay. And when we do that, our vibration goes up. So it might be, and it's so funny because I wrote this book 5 or 6 years ago called The 7 Steps to Manifesting Your Dream Wife. Some of you may have read it. Some of you may have participated in my group for that. And they're the same steps for this. When I thought about it, I was like, what? But it's the same because your Akashic Records is where you get everything. The steps to get there is the same for everything. Get centered, meditation, right? Get grateful, even for the breath in your lungs, if that's all you got today. Start asking questions. Surrender. Let stuff go that's bothering you. Let those stressors go. Be like, well, this is how it's going to be. Or the other day, I was like, I just got to surrender all this stuff. I'm trying to control too many things. It's not working. And it's causing me a lot of stress. So I got to let it go. Then noticing your contrast and when you're out of alignment. Because that's real easy to find out when you don't feel like you're like, no, that's out of alignment. Okay. When you're all whiny on the inside or the outside. I mean, I whine on the outside. Ask Aaron. He'll be like, oh shit, she's whining again. But seriously, that's when you know you're out of alignment. That's when you know your shadow, your higher self is showing up to teach you something, to be like, back in alignment, yo. And then get into awareness. That is actually, I forget who said it, and I hate that I forget who said it, but somebody really, really, some smarty pants guru type, but not like a bad guru, like a real one, like Sadhguru or somebody else like that. I forget who it was, but they said meditation isn't about not thinking. Meditation is about engaging your awareness. Because when you are in awareness, you can make choices. When you are just wandering through life, trying to ignore everything, you're not being in awareness. And so thusly, you're abdicating your choice, which is actually a choice. And a lot of times we do that out of fear because we don't want to be accountable for the shit that we manifest, right? Oh God, isn't that awful when people say that to you? Like, especially manifesting teachers, they're like, well, you did all this. And they say it in a way that's so like from that framework of, I'll give you something to cry about, which is bullshit. And the fact is, if we can look in awareness and say, when Bad stuff happens and we're like, what is going on? Where in my energy am I manifesting this feeling? I'm trying to do something. And it's never really like the same exact thing. It's the essence of that. It might be like someone's trying to get you to do something and and you're like, God, they're being so manipulative. Am I being manipulative? And it's like, okay, what is really manipulation about? It's about fear and control. Okay, where am I trying to over control something because I'm afraid? Do you see the storyline there to get you to where you're in awareness? And then you can say to yourself, oh, that's why I manifested that. Ah, should have had a V8 for those of you old enough to remember that ad. But that awareness is what's going to get you into that higher vibration of accessing your records and then being able to receive without fear or judgment the information that comes is the bottom line. So, if we talk about like Abraham, if y'all are familiar with like Abraham Hicks, one of the funny things Esther always talks about is she'll talk about being in a crappy mood and wanting Abraham to come down and cheer her up. And Abraham will say to her something to the extent of, I'm not coming down there. You got to raise your vibration to come up here. So we got to raise our vibrations to get into the same vibration. Because remember, this is all energy. Even you are energy. I am energy. This conversation is energy. Since we are in 3D, it's very, very slow energy, slow vibrating energy, which the slower you get, the more solid you get. The faster you get, the less solid. So the more etherness you become, which is why the 12th dimension is kind of up there, so we got to get at least to the fifth or sixth in an essence state to communicate in that way. That's why you see people who are mediums or channels or healers or intuitives, before they work with somebody, they meditate to kind of have a conversation with the universe and thusly themselves, to put themselves in a place that is open, that is centered in gratitude, asking for support, letting go of any burdens that is of yourself, to open up to be a conduit for spirit, to understand when there's fear and love going on in that choice. Because sometimes I have friends that are like, we joke about how I'm okay with being a medium, but at a time years ago, I was not okay with being a channel. They're two different activities dealing with this, sourcing the same information from the same place, but they're two different activities. And she was like, "Oh, I don't mind being a channel at all." So like getting past all of that. So because those are just labels and activities. Um, but years ago, I remember that conversation. It was like, I'd rather be the telephone conduit. And she's like, no, I'd rather be the thing. So, I'd rather be the channel versus the person like kind of going, oh, is that what you're saying? Here's what they're saying, versus letting people talk through you or spirit talk through you. So there's that kind of stuff going on. But as you're kind of making these choices in that contrast, and then being in awareness of what's going on, what's being shared, and then receiving that information, right? Um, and then when we do that, a lot of times you can follow a process to access your own records, but it's basically you get into that higher vibrational state, you set an intention. I mean, this is all the same stuff, right? You set an intention to meet your guide, you set an intention to go in with a question, you make sure that you kind of do so without putting any sort of judgment or analyzation on it, because a lot of times that'll kick you right out of that high vibration zone when we start analyzing things. I don't know about you, but the minute I start thinking, how is this happening? It kicks you right out. Ooh, kind of like that, where you hit your elbow and you're like, damn. And then you're back, then it's like you're down on the front steps again. And you're like, dang, okay, I got to raise my vibration again and stop asking so many like how questions. And so part of why I facilitate, I don't read them, I facilitate you, is to have somebody be your guide, to get you in, to remind you and keep your vibration where you need it to be so that you can experience what you need, and then come out and give you the space to, uh, what is it called? Debrief yourself. And that's why I offer the journey as a group now, is to kind of do that as a group, because the more I love being able to do it for as many people as possible, but doing it for a group and then facilitating that, you know, because doing it on your own is kind of challenging. You will do it on your own, but having someone facilitate, kind of like when you have a co-host on a podcast, like Tori, you have a podcast. It's a lot easier to have a podcast where you have a co-host or a guest that you're going, you're kind of leaning on each other to get where you want to go. It's kind of like that. Like neither one of you is really leading and directing the other. It's more of, I'm going to facilitate and open the doors for you, and you are the one who is walking through. That's the access. I always feel like, when you watch Edgar Casey stuff, if you know who he is, if not, Google Sleeping Prophet Edgar Casey. He was always hanging out in the Akashic Records. He too, he would be lying on a couch giving out medical advice with his, with him kind of like thumbing through the Akashic Records. And he also had a person there who would communicate with the client and then communicate with him and was facilitating, but they're all in the same room. It wasn't that, the facilitator was the person saying to him, well, what about this? And kind of guiding him based on these other questions. And so I'm kind of like even taking out a bit more of that middleman, where I'm just going to guide you on your own journey so that you can access your own records. I think that's what's really cool. So you can do this, and you can do it on your own. You can do it on your own. You could record your own meditation, then listen and come back to it. But at the end of the day, I want to make this as accessible. Blah blah blah. This is moving faster than this. That's what happens when your dog is jumping all over the place in the middle of the night, and you get a little not such good sleep. But anyways, back to the matter at hand, which is accessing your Akashic Records. So, from that perspective of how do I get in there, you can do it where you hire a reader. You can do it on your own, where you maybe record your own meditations about what your intentions are, how you want to get in there, reminders about, not being analytical as you're wandering around in there. Um, that kind of thing, where you kind of do everything yourself, or it can be facilitated, which is the journey to your Akashic Records experience that I created, which is I facilitate again. I'm not directing you. I'm not creating dogma around this. I'm just saying, I'm just going to hold, like people go on a journey in Europe and there's like somebody who's got a little flaggy. I'm like, follow me. And it's not so much follow me in there. It's more me giving you direction in the sense of a visualization meditation that allows enough latitude for you to create your own vibrational world and intention in such a way that you are in control of all of the messages that you choose to receive and how you receive them. And then with all that information, we kind of talk through what you're going to do with it. So I add on that other part. So you can hire someone to do it all the way for you. You can do it you can DIY it all yourself, or the middle of the road, which is a facilitated effort, which is what I offer. So that's kind of what I offer right now, what I'm offering right now. And tomorrow you're going to get an email, unless you're not on my email list. If you're not on my email list, go to my website, soulcoachstudio.com, scroll all the way to the bottom, sign up. You'll get your weekly readings, and you'll get all the emails about this stuff. But the thing I was going to share that not yesterday, in lesson 1, we'll just say lesson 1, I wanted to say that I am going to offer a special surprise for those of you, especially the first group. So this is only for the first group. If you're watching this 3 years from now, this is not going to apply. But for those of you who are watching in 2023 in February that want to be part of the first group, 30% off. Okay? 30% off the journey. So if you want to come, there you go. I'm trying to make it as accessible and equitable for everyone. It's 7 weeks where we get together, and every other week there's a journey. And then on the other weeks, there's coaching in between, so that you have both the support on all the ends, which is why I love that. And it's live on Zoom. And there is also curriculum. There's like 12 lesson videos. And Also working on a non-Facebook community because I don't want Facebook algorithm to influence your intention setting. So there's that. So there's the three elements. You have our live meetings, replays, online curriculum, online community, and it's a 7-week journey starting the 21st of February. So registration is open. If you'd like to sign up right now, there are 8 spots, and I would love to see you there. There should be a link in the blurb of either the YouTube or this, but I will encourage you this. If nothing else, what I want you to take home with you is meditation, meditation, meditation. So Tori says meditation will help with raising vibrations because, girl, I got a lot of raising needed. Yes, yes. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to, don't do one meditation and be like, fuck this shit. I ain't doing this. I ain't ready no meditation. Let me tell you how long I've been meditating. 7 years. Every morning, without fail, even when I don't wanna do it. Now, I'm not saying you got to meditate for an hour. There are teachers out there that'll tell you you got to meditate for an hour in the morning, an hour at night. And I'm like, what kind of life are you living? I mean, do you also have somebody that follows you around and slaps donuts out of your hand so that you stay skinny as well? I mean, like, seriously. I don't know about you. People think self employed people have more time, and that's bullshit. No, I got just as much time as everybody else, which is, you got to manage it. So here's what I do. I get up every morning and I love David G. If you don't know who he is a meditation and mindfulness teacher who I found on Hay House, and he also is on Insight Timer now. He's kind of in the deep end of the pool, but he has this concept called RPM that I have learned about all those years ago, and I live by to this day because it is the God's honest truth. It's called Rise, P, Meditate. You know why? Because if you wait any longer about that, more than that, you probably will not come back to your meditation. I don't know about you. I know people like, I meditate before bed. I'm like, good for you. Right before bed, you know what? I'm tired. And I usually just go to sleep. So the way that I get my meditation in is the minute I wake up, this is a little TMI, but I wake up, I go to the potty, and I go meditate in my meditation chair right back here, right there. So that, and what I do is my body talk tapping. Every morning, I do the 4 thumps from the Eden method, and then I usually do probably a 10 or 12-minute meditation. So my process pretty much only lasts less than 15 minutes. Some days, yeah, I'll do 30 minutes to an hour. Some days I'll journal, but without fail, I do at least 15 minutes every morning. And that's what I'm going to encourage you to do. If you don't have Insight Timer, which is an app with free stuff, download it to your phone now, use it. Get familiar with it, find stuff that resonates with you, and do your 15 minutes a day. Okay? Because that will get you more in control and in awareness of what you're feeling, even when you're not meditating. That's the cool thing. Once you do it for a while, all of a sudden, the spiritual journey becomes easier because instead of like, why is that happening? Like, and somebody goes, well, it's not happening to you, it's happening for you. And you're like, screw you, shut up, it's happening to me, right? We've had all those moments. But the fact is, once you start meditating for a long time and you're like, why is this? Oh, it's happening for me. Okay, what's going on? Like, and you have those moments where you get clear and you can work through them from a place of response, not reaction. That's what all that means. And then once you get that vibration under control and you are in awareness and you are in charge of when you raise it and when you don't, that's when you start connecting to your Akashic Records on your own in a way. The reason I facilitate is because I help you get there a little bit faster because you don't need to be fully in charge of what's going on as far as how you get your vibe raised. Because I'm going to guide you in a way that gets it there first. Okay? So if you're interested in Resonate, you want to check it out, there should be a link. If there's not, make sure you comment, Michelle, where's the freaking link? And I will post it, but it should be there. And you can read all about the journey. And I would love to see you on the travel roster in my inbox. Between now and I think the 17th at 5 p.m. Central Time is when registration closes. And I would love to see you there. I hope this accessing your own Akashic Records was helpful. I hope that this was fun. I saw a lot of LMAOs, which I love. that we take these kind of deep, heavy things and make them a little more fun. But I love you guys so much. Thank you for joining me today, and enjoy the rest of your day. And I will see you on Friday at 11 a.m. Central for the third lesson, which is working with your Akashic records to power up your manifesting, which I think, of course, I'm going to talk about manifesting. I mean, how could I not? It's me. And second, it's all connected. Just like everything else is one, this is all one too, just like I talked about in the beginning of the video. And if you haven't watched lesson one, go ahead and head on back over there and look at that. And if you have questions, please feel free to post them. I'd love to answer them for you. If you're watching the replay, thank you for joining me for the replay, taking the time to watch, and hit a hashtag replay in the comment and give me a little hello. And thank you guys who are here with me live. I love you guys so much. I will see you in the next lesson. And have a great rest of your week. I'll see you then. Bye, y'all.